Welcome to today's module, Goal Setting Principles and Strategies. The main objective of goal setting is to improve our performance, and we can do that through setting different types of goals, and we'll learn about that today. And the main source for this information comes from our textbook, Weinberg and Gould's 7th edition of Foundation of Sport and Exercise Psychology. Our learning objectives for this module are to be able to define goal types, identify common problems, describe goal setting principles and specific goal setting strategies, along with developing a goal map and goal achievement strategies. Let's begin by defining goals. There's two broad types of goals that we can set. There's objective goals and subjective goals. Now, objective goals really focus on attaining a specific standard or proficiency in a task, usually within a specific time frame. So that being the case, it's well defined. Now, subjective goals are really just general statements of intent, like I want to do well or I want to have fun, and they're not really measurable or objective. So we need to keep these definitions in mind as we set goals and begin to learn about new strategies in goal achievement. In addition to defining goals, it's also important that we understand differing goal types. Well, there are three essential goal types that we can set. First, there's outcome goals. These are really the results. But the problem with the results, they're not in our control. So we need something when we're setting goals that we have control over, and those are our process and performance goals. Process goals are actions taken during performance, or they're the process goals that we set in order to reach milestones. Additionally, we have performance goals that we can set. Now, these goals are personal standards of excellence. These are set not to compare ourselves to others, but to compare ourselves to previous attempts at the same task. Before we begin discussing goal setting principles, let's talk about a few of the pitfalls that we need to avoid. Now, goal setting isn't easy, and it's a psychological technique that takes time and practice. So in order to have the greatest opportunity for success, we need to make sure that we set self-determined goals, that we set specific goals, that we set only one or two goals early on that we can start achieving. And as we get closer to achieving those goals, then we can start setting other goals, but we cannot try to set too many too soon. Additionally, it's important that we adjust during the goal achievement process. Oftentimes, if there's no adjustment made, it's going to be more difficult to achieve the goals we want. Failure to individualize goals to the person themselves due to their starting point or skill development and just trying to make everybody in one group oftentimes decreases motivation to achieve that goal. So we need to make sure we individualize goals to not just ourselves, but also when we're working with athletes, that we can help them individualize it to themselves and that they set their self-oriented perfectionist kind of standards with that. Where in the case of goal setting, we're going to know that as performance goal setting. And so they're setting their own standard. And lastly, it's critical that as a coach, as a leader, as a manager, that we follow up and that we evaluate how they're doing in their progress to their goals. And now it's not time to criticize them, but it's a time to help them understand what they're doing well and what they need to start doing to achieve their goals, and maybe something that they need to stop doing to achieve those goals. So what does the research say about goal setting? Well, that's where we're going to get our principles, is from the research. We want evidence-based reasoning for our goal setting. So some of the things that come out of research. Well, one is that it needs to be specific. So it needs to be able to be measurable. Then it discusses how we need moderately difficult goals, because when we set a moderately difficult goal and we accomplish it, we have that feeling of accomplishment. Whereas if it's too easy, well, do we really feel like we accomplished anything? Not really. And if it's too difficult, well, we might not be able to accomplish it, and so we lose interest and we lose motivation. So setting moderately difficult goals. It's important that we use multi-goal strategies, and that includes short and long-term goals. That includes outcome, performance, and process goal setting, as well as using different strategies that we'll discuss later on in this module. Now, it goes without saying, but we need to record goals. The research indicates that goals that are written down and recorded are 80% more likely to be achieved. And lastly, we need to develop goal achievement strategies. These are sub-goals that will help us, or known as process goals, to help us achieve those, the outcomes that we desire. So these are a few of the principles that we'll be keeping in mind as we learn more about goal setting. When beginning to set goals, it's good to kind of break it down. And we can use a goal setting system design with 3 stages essentially. One is the prep and planning stage, the next is the education and acquisition stage, and the last is the implementation and follow-up and evaluation stage. In the prep and planning stage, this is where you strategize what are the things you want to accomplish. How might you see yourself accomplishing this? In the education and acquisition stage, this is when we learn about strategies that we can incorporate to have greater goal achievement. And this goes back to that multi-goal strategies with long and short term, different goal types, as well as the strategies of start, stop, continue, goal mapping, and SMARTS goal strategies. And then so that's the education part, and the acquisition really relates to practicing these things and kind of going through some really simple goals that you want to set. It could be just a practice goal that you want to set for the day, or a task goal that you want to set for the day to accomplish so many tasks in a day, just to kind of get yourself to get in the habit of goal setting and acquiring the skills necessary. Once you acquire the skills, the same way you would with skills, physical skills, you want to then implement them. And once you implement your goal setting strategies, you then will want to follow up and evaluate to make sure you're on course. So what are some strategies we can incorporate? We're going to take a look at 3 primary strategies: the SMARTS goal setting strategy, the start, stop, continue strategy, and the goal mapping strategy. In the SMARTS strategy, these are just guidelines to make sure that we are on point with the types of goals we're setting, to make sure that they're specific, measurable, achievable. Remember, we want them moderately difficult. We want them related to the desired outcome. So for instance, if you are setting a goal on behavior, you want to make sure that the goal is related to the behavior you want. If it's related to a skill or a task, that it's related to the skill or task that you want the outcome to be achieved. Next, they need to be timed. And this could be short or long term. They could be on a day-to-day basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, or a longer set of timed, but they need to be timed so that you have an opportunity to stop and evaluate, make adjustments as needed. And lastly, as mentioned in the pitfalls, we need to make sure that they are self-determined, that this gives the individual that choice or that autonomy in choosing what they want to achieve. And that will increase their effort, increase their perseverance, and improve their intrinsic motivation in their quest to achieve their goals. So after you set a SMARTS goal and make sure that it's well defined according to the SMARTS acronym, now you can incorporate the start, stop, continue strategy. Now you can think about things you need to start doing, stop doing, and continue doing in an effort to achieve your goals. So when you think about the start, what is something you're not doing currently that will help you achieve your milestones and eventually your purpose or your outcomes? What's something that you need to stop doing? What are things that aren't working or keeping you from achieving your desired outcomes? Maybe it's something behavioral, it could be something physical, but essentially it needs to be something that you stop doing in order to overcome the challenges in your effort to achieve your goal. Lastly, what do you need to continue doing? That's a good question to ask. There's hopefully some things that you do well, that you're disciplined on, that you can continue doing, that will enable you to realize and achieve your outcomes. The last strategy we'll discuss in this module, in line with our multi-goal strategy, is goal mapping. Now, just as if you were to take a road trip and go on a journey of many hundreds or thousands of miles, you would have a map of where you're going. On that map, you would have different points and gauges that would indicate that you're on track and going in the right direction, somewhat kind of like milestones. And as you achieve each milestone, you get closer and closer to your destination. As you reach each milestone, this helps you build confidence in your performance, that you're doing the right things to get closer to your end goal. Now, it's imperative that in goal mapping that we use multiple goal types: outcome, process, and performance goals. However, it is critical that we focus in on the process and performance goals over the outcomes, understanding that if we take care of the little things and take care of the process of getting to the end destination, we will achieve our goal through our determination and motivation to achieve little steps that will make a big difference in the progress towards our goals. So what is a goal map and how does it work? Well, let's think back to our goal setting system design, and let's think about the prep stage, prep and planning stage. That's when you're going to determine your purpose, your reason for being, your end destination, your outcome that you desire. You'll also at that time choose a few milestones that will gauge your progress toward achieving your goals. Next, you'll look ahead and determine what are some challenges you can foresee happening. What are the obstacles that you need to overcome? In addition to determining our purpose, milestones, and foreseeing some challenges, we need to also begin to develop a plan on how we're going to remain focused. Now, these focus goals are really self-talk strategies. Within these strategies, we need to make sure that we have both motivational and instructional self-talk that we will be able to implement when we face challenges. Motivational self-talk are the statements we use and internally say to ourselves to help us improve our mood, improve our effort, keep us going when the challenges we face seem too difficult. Instructional self-talk, on the other hand, are ways in which we communicate with ourselves on how can we have a successful performance of a task. An example of this in baseball might be keep your eye on the ball. Something in basketball would be to find my rhythm, breathe, relax. Those are all types of instructional self-talk. And the last part of our goal map elements is our goal achievement strategy. Now, these are specific strategies that will be incorporated in an effort to achieve our outcome and purpose. A few other keys to the goal achievement strategy is that they need to be both physical strategies and mental strategies. Also, there is a specific goal that you need to define, but you also need to make sure that it has frequency and duration, as well as a timed element, meaning that there's a time frame in which you want to accomplish this. So just to clarify, frequency relates to the number of times you're going to do an activity per day or per week, and the duration is the amount of time you're going to spend on that activity per occurrence. And finally, you want to make sure that you have a completion date, whether this is 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, whatever that may be. You need to be able to set a date out in the future of when you want to have completed these goal achievement strategies by. So that way you can come back to them, review them, evaluate, and adjust as necessary to ensure that you are headed towards your milestones and eventually your purpose and outcome. So we've talked about SMART goals, start, stop, and continue statements, as well as goal mapping. How do we put it all together in a goal achievement strategy and a multi-goal achievement strategy? Well, here's one way you can do it, one way you can conceptualize it. First, you want to write down your SMART goal. What is your overall goal that you're trying to achieve? Next, you're going to put down your start, stop, and continue statements. And lastly, you're going to map out your goal. You're going to define your purpose. You're going to identify your first milestone. Now, this milestone will change as you begin to get further along your journey, but you're going to identify your first milestone. Then you'll identify several challenges that you will encounter, that you know you're going to encounter. And of course, there will be those that you don't know you're going to encounter, but at least looking down the line, identify some of the challenges you're going to encounter so you can have a plan on how you are going to either avoid those challenges or get through those challenges. And lastly, you want to put down your focus statements. What are a few focus statements, both motivational and instructional, that you can tell yourself to help you through difficult times? And then to put it all together, you'll identify your goal achievement strategies. Here's where you'll put down specific statements that you are going to do with frequency, duration, and a completion date. Okay, now let's all tie it all together. So what we want to be able to do is break it down. Utilize the goal setting system design of prep and planning, educate and acquisition, implement, follow up, and evaluate in an effort to be able to improve our motivation, improve our commitment to goal achievement, and improve our competence. Thank you very much for your time, energy, and effort in completing this module today. Please go back and review the learning objectives to make sure you have a solid understanding of those. And then go ahead and start your engines and get ready to hit the gas as we get 1% better every day. Please let me know if you have any questions. Go Beach!